Sorry.
Okay.
Don't you dare! Sit down, you dare!
Today we're going to be looking at a video that's recently come up online of, he calls himself Dr. Mboro, and basically someone who's generally in the spotlight for some controversial things. And of course, I've got my brother Ulriki, who's going to help us break it down as someone who's basically walked this journey, who understands this man, what he stands for. And I think the reason why it's important that we discuss these sort of things is that when somebody claims to be a Christian leader, there's a certain responsibility that comes with it. And that's what we're going to be getting into today. But Ricky, let me hand over to you to just share a little bit about who he is and what he stands for.
All right. So this is going to be a two-part episode. And so there are things that you might be thinking concerning this video. We're probably going to talk about that on the other video. So on this one, talk about the leadership aspect and the role of the believer in society. And then on the other episode, we'll then talk about the moral aspects of things. Okay. So here it looks like there is a situation where his child had an issue with the school. So Mboro's child, who's supposed to be a prophet, went to the school, and his child has a bruise on his eye, and this is the primary school which his child's son or daughter or something, or his grandson Mboro goes to. And so it's a very weird type of a situation here, because the father is bruised. It's not the son who's bruised. This is a primary school. And so it kind of gets very confusing. And then Mboro came with bodyguards, and there are gates which are closed, and you can hear someone in the background saying, Nakibatloto. So someone wants to come out. And so it's kind of a very weird situation already, because he then made a video trying to frame it like, they recorded the part of him that looks off. So he made another video trying to explain this, but it doesn't help his situation. And being it that in this situation, this could have been handled by the police, but we're going to talk about that just in a second. So Mboro is a man who had a very big ministry way before, and that ministry ran for a couple of years. He was very boastful, very proud during those particular years. You couldn't tell him nothing. Nobody could tell him nothing. He had all kinds of strange things happening in this church that are not biblical. For some reason, he started having issues with cash and his church. He became very bitter over the years. He started chasing up and down Bushiri and stuff like that. He lost a big church venue that he used to do his services to Bushiri, and that only grew his bitterness. You'll remember during the period when Bushiri was here, he became very xenophobic in his comments. He had a situation with Nando's and stuff like that. And so Mboro's first place to run to whenever there's a challenge in his personal life, it's either the police or social media. Um,
Mm,
as a person who claims to be a prophet, I would think he goes to God first, and
yeah,
get himself in
absolutely.
order. He's a prophet.
Mm,
you know,
mm,
I
yeah.
would think he goes and gets himself in order before he comes out, because he always looks weird at the end of the day.
Mm,
Mm.
sure.
And so that's a
So
brief of who he is. Just a brief.
yeah, no, I think you've given some insight because I know he was also in the spotlight when this BBC journalist, Reggie, did a
Mm,
documentary on his church. He was very offended by it.
mm,
He generally doesn't like people putting the spotlight on some of the things he does.
mm,
But he's also somebody who claimed to perform miracles. And I know his church was quite a big church. But
mm,
I think my question then is around the fact that so this thing is happening in the school, ne? and
yeah.
and he's seen as somebody who's obviously retaliating. He's got his bodyguard with him. The bodyguard has got a gun, and
Mm,
he seems to have a machete as well. So perhaps the question is, how do we as Christians respond when we are
mm,
placed in a situation like this? Because I think that, looking at this from an outsider's perspective, you can see,
mm,
that it questions the very thing that you claim to believe. If you
yeah.
are out at school and you are the one who's walking into the school, I'm just assuming there's a
Yeah.
child out there that is looking, and there comes the pastor, with his machete and his bodyguard. I mean, how should Christians, understand their social responsibility? And I think, especially for Christian leaders who are people who are supposed to set an
Mm,
example for those who are outside of the church.
mm. The most important part of it is, well, if the laws are not against us, we have no reason of protest.
Hmm.
And we
Hmm.
must be careful of our protest. I
Hmm.
think that's a part of it that, like, for example, I'll give an example here. During the period of the COVID period, it was a very simple thing. Yes, it's difficult to understand and adjust yourself to that, because we've never had that,
Hmm.
like, ever in
Yeah.
history. We haven't
Yeah.
had
Yeah.
that. But then at the same time, it's if the laws are not against us,
Hmm.
we must be careful of our protest. And I say the word
Hmm.
careful of our protest, because our protest can actually show areas of no maturity, if you think about it. The
Hmm.
Bible says,
Hmm.
Matthew chapter number 5, it says that in the same way, let your light so shine before others.
Hmm.
So let the light, now people are seeing your darkness,
Hmm.
your sinful
Yeah. Your
aspect of
anger
your
and all
life.
these things. Yeah.
Yeah, which is why I say, he ought to have, he says he's a prophet. I've never claimed to be a prophet. You've never claimed to be a prophet. So
No.
he should have first sought the voice of God concerning what he was about to get involved in. First of all, the police could have handled this if there was an
Yeah.
injustice that was done towards his son, which was
Hmm.
either he was beaten or the grandson. The police
Hmm.
can handle that. you
Hmm.
don't need
Absolutely.
you don't need to show disregard to the law by showing
Hmm.
up at a school. Now he says in his story, no, they threatened him, then he went. There were people that were trying to close the gate, and he went and he got his pangas. And I'm like, wait a minute, uh you went and you got your panga, so you came with a
You
panga.
came into a school.
Yeah. What
Who does
responsibility? Who
that?
does that? Because you have to understand something. Okay, so when we speak about that particular verse, let your light so shine. Think about it. Here is a parent right now. It's uh, it's 4 o'clock. This thing started coming out around 4 o'clock or so, or 5 o'clock, around there, around
Hmm.
periods when parents are going to fetch their kids.
Hmm.
Think
Hmm.
about what you have just done. What you have done now, these videos come up showing you at a school which their child is in. Now a
Hmm.
parent is panicked, trying to rush to get to a school. At least there is a man running wild with a panga at a school.
Absolutely. And this man happens
It's
to be a
so,
Christian.
there you go. And so now we have a problem, because now you're causing panic in an area where you could have brought
Hmm.
order. Okay, if there was something that was in,
Absolutely.
and also we must be careful of uh, being too much, and I believe that
mm,
he likes being too much, and I that's why I don't cover most of his stories on my platform, because
mm.
he loves the eyes of the people.
Yeah,
he
absolutely.
loves he loves
Absolutely.
being on that. If you speak about the documentary that you're speaking about, I was on the second part of the documentary. They never released that part of that same documentary that was shot in 2013. They do like that episode. That show so much, they upload it every single year.
Mm. Oh,
And
really?
so, yeah, they upload it almost every year because it always does well. Thingy.
Sure.
And so it was shot back in 2013. And around the same
Mm,
period, they were shooting another documentary. They just never released those other documentaries, but that one they did release. If you look at that documentary, he's been flamboyant, he's been all over the place. He's making someone wait for like 12 hours for
mm,
a person. Is this entitlement that allows us to that shows
mm,
a bit of childish aspect to our
yeah,
personality and stuff. That's
absolutely.
the thing. We must be very careful with portraying such
Mm,
things. Someone might say, yeah, he was angry, right?
mm,
But and at this point, there is something that the law can do concerning the situation. You ruin it by
absolutely.
bringing more threats and bringing instability into that whole thing.
Mm.
And then there is the subject matter that he brings up about maintenance or what. I don't know if he's talking about
I
whether
don't know what he's talking about.
he means that the school expects him to maintain his child, because I don't know if the child is doing well financially or something like. I don't know if
Oh, I
that's what
see.
he meant, because he says that they were insulting his grandkids and saying bamarata and what that they're not proper, like in thing. Now things
Mm,
like that can be reported. They are boards for schools. But because he
absolutely.
complains so much, Mporo loves complaining. He
Mm,
complains so much, people end up not taking him seriously,
absolutely. Yeah. I
even
think
about
also,
things that have nothing to do with it. Yeah,
yeah, leadership. And I think for us, it's not even the fact that we're isolating him, but really saying what lessons can be learned, right, for all of us. Because I think
yeah,
all of us do get angry at a lot of things that we see. But the question is, what do you do in your anger? I mean, the Bible
yeah,
is quite clear. Do not sin in your anger. And so
yeah,
there's, a space for us as Christians to sort of reflect on this.
mm,
Second Timothy chapter 1, verse 7 says, "For God has given us not a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and self-control." And
yeah,
so, we do have those moments where we lose our control, but I think that,
yeah,
you have a greater responsibility on Christian leadership,
yeah,
to set an example for those maybe that might not still have it together, who are still struggling with these things. But we would expect for somebody who obviously is a popular Christian leader, at least to be setting that example for others.
yeah. I think in my closing for this particular subject, uh, Philippians chapter number 2, verse number 14 up until 15 is a perfect example. It comments exactly what you were just saying now. He says,
Mm,
do everything without grumbling or arguing, right? And so we may fall into that sometimes, but we must be very careful in that. He says, so that, he gives a reason, so that you may become blameless, or you may be seen blameless and pure.
mm,
So he's very
absolutely.
clear that you do this, or you do this particular thing of not being. That's why I'm saying he complains so much that people will end up not caring, or they just don't care. Actually, not that they will.
Mm,
They right now,
mm,
currently, even when he has a genuine thing to complain about, nobody cares because he complains so much
yeah,
about
yeah.
everything. He says, so that you may be blameless and pure, the children of God without fault,
Mm,
or in this crooked generation. And then he says, then you will shine among them like stars in the sky. So remember the first verse that I read earlier on, which is in Matthew, says, to be that light within amongst other people, basically in your deeds and so forth. And so if we're talking about all these responsibilities for a leader in the church, understand how they see you. It's quite a very important thing. You can't be
mm,
there uh, posing a threat. People are seeing
absolutely.
videos
Mm,
at their kids' school, there's a
Mm.
man with a panga, you cause panic.
Absolutely.
You know, they seeing videos on things they are thinking, is my child okay? If this man is
Yeah.
going crazy with
Yeah.
a panga leadership,
A
an AK-47.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
I
yeah.
want to mention something also that goes with that, because he complains so much that I don't think he even sees it. He just thinks, he was saying, yeah, I'm a warrior. I'm like, dude, come on, relax. You know,
Calm down.
first of all, he is threatening to raise a panga at a woman who
I,
is not a threat.
she's not a threat. She's not holding any gun.
She's
You
holding a
know,
phone.
what
She's
is
holding
this?
a phone.
Yeah, what
And
is
it's
this
like,
insecurity? You know?
yeah, what is the insecurity? Exactly. You brought up a very important point. What is this insecurity that you should deal with God? And can you hear from God?
Mm,
I didn't say that. That's
absolutely.
what you said about yourself. So
Mm,
if you
mm,
hear from God, you need to hear about, because if you are raising a panga at, if a person is not, because he was making this claim of self-defense, and I'm like, yeah, you don't understand
no.
self-defense.
From what?
Self-defense,
Yeah, from what?
if
Hey,
the
this
person,
guy.
if the person was not a threat, your
Mm,
so-called self-defense becomes manslaughter.
mm, absolutely.
and
Yeah.
and that's the thing that I don't think he understands. He doesn't. He thinks he understands it, but clearly he
I don't think
doesn't.
he gets it.
Nah, he doesn't get it, because if he
Mm,
would have understood that there is an aspect, they would go back and look at the fact that the person was not being a threat. And also, this is not your house, this is a school. You went to
mm,
a school and you are claiming that you are threatened. You went to them, and it's teachers. You are
absolutely.
putting up all these conspiracy ideas. Relax, man. And so
Mm,
relax.
absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Ricky, for giving us some insights on who he is, and I think that it's a discussion definitely that we should have in the body. How do we respond when
Yeah.
these sort of things are happening? This is Bisrat for Africa. We'll catch you guys in the other video. It'll be in the description for you guys to find, and watch part 2 on Church Reality Check. Thank you.